Doctors tell you to drink more water, and you do, faithfully. 8 glasses, sometimes more. You carry the bottle, you track the ounces, you do everything you've been told, and you're still exhausted. Still stiff in the morning, still watching your blood sugar or blood pressure move in the wrong direction, still foggy by noon. Here's what most doctors almost certainly never mention, because there's no prescription for it, no procedure to bill, no drug company funding the research. Plain water, after the age of 60, passes through your body so quickly that your cells barely absorb it. That's not an exaggeration. That's physiology documented in peer-reviewed research and largely ignored by mainstream medicine because it cannot be solved with a prescription pad. After 60, the tiny channels in your cell membranes, called aquaporins, that pull water into your cells become significantly less efficient. Your kidneys lose their ability to hold on to the minerals that water needs to be properly absorbed. So the water goes in, your urine runs clear, and your cells remain starved. You've been doing exactly what you were told, and the advice was only half right. There's a reason you're still tired, still stiff, still foggy, and it is not age, it is not failure, it is what is missing from your water. Today, this video is going to change that. These are the 5 ingredients, each with published scientific evidence behind them, that transform plain water into something your aging body can actually absorb, use, and feel. They are not expensive. They require no prescription. And almost no one over 60 has been told about all of them. Until now. Here is what the research actually shows. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Physiology found that aquaporin expression, the biological mechanism that moves water into cells, declines significantly with age. By the time a person reaches their late 60s, cellular water absorption can be reduced by as much as 30 to 40% compared to a person in their 40s. The water is being consumed. It is not being retained at the cellular level. At the same time, the aging kidney undergoes a well-documented decline in what researchers call tubular reabsorption, its ability to recover minerals before they exit the body in urine. A review in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society confirmed that sodium, potassium, and magnesium losses through urine increase substantially after age 65, even in healthy adults with normal kidney function. The result is a compounding problem. Plain water enters the body and exits rapidly. As it moves through, it carries minerals with it. Those minerals, the very electrolytes that make water absorbable at the cellular level, are lost. And so the next glass of water absorbs even less effectively than the last. This creates a cycle that researchers have linked to a wide range of serious health consequences. An analysis published in Nutrients found that mild chronic dehydration in adults over 65 was independently associated with elevated fasting blood glucose, higher systolic blood pressure, increased markers of joint inflammation, accelerated cognitive decline, impaired bowel function, and a significantly elevated risk of falls. These are not fringe findings. These are peer-reviewed outcomes, replicated across multiple populations, published in mainstream medical journals. The problem is not that seniors are failing to drink enough water. The problem is that plain water, without the right additions, is not doing the job it was designed to do in a body over 60. The solution is specific. It is inexpensive, and it starts with what you add to your glass. Before getting into the 5 ingredients, here's a quick question. Type your age in the comments right now and type water next to it. This community wants to see how many people have been doing everything right and still not feeling the results they deserve. And if this kind of research-based health information matters to you, consider subscribing and hitting the bell. Because the next video in this series covers something that affects nearly 40% of seniors and is almost never discussed openly, and the science behind it is just as compelling as what you're about to hear. Here is what this video covers. 5 specific ingredients to add to your water, each one supported by published research and each targeting a different biological system. Joint health, blood sugar, blood pressure, brain function, and cellular absorption. Stay until the fifth ingredient. It is the one almost no one knows about, and the mechanism behind it is one of the most remarkable discoveries in nutritional science of the last decade. Let's begin. Ingredient. Number 1. A pinch of sea salt, or Himalayan salt. The first ingredient will surprise most people, because it goes directly against what seniors have been told for years. Salt, not processed table sodium, not the sodium in packaged food. A small, specific amount of unrefined sea salt or Himalayan pink salt added to your morning glass of water. Here is why the science supports this. Water absorption at the cellular level is not passive. It is driven by a process called osmosis, which requires a precise balance of electrolytes, primarily sodium, potassium, and magnesium, on either side of the cell membrane. Without adequate electrolytes in the water you're drinking, osmotic pressure cannot form properly. The water flows through the digestive tract and exits through the kidneys without ever entering the cells that need it. Research published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition demonstrated that older adults who consumed an electrolyte balanced solution showed significantly improved intracellular hydration markers compared to those drinking plain water, even when total fluid intake was identical. The volume of water consumed was not the determining factor. The mineral content was. The distinction between processed sodium and unrefined mineral salt is critical. Unrefined sea salt and Himalayan pink salt contain over 80 trace minerals in their natural ionic form, including calcium, magnesium, and potassium, which work together to support cellular absorption. Processed table salt, stripped of these cofactors, does not produce the same effect and has been rightly associated with cardiovascular risk when consumed in excess. There is also a documented and underappreciated danger worth understanding. Hyponatremia, dangerously low blood. Sodium is one of the most common electrolyte disorders in adults over 65. A study in the American Journal of Medicine found that up to 7% of community-dwelling seniors have clinically significant hyponatremia, with a much larger proportion experiencing subclinical depletion. Its symptoms, confusion, fatigue, dizziness, increased fall risk, are routinely misattributed to aging or medication side effects, meaning the underlying mineral cause goes unaddressed. The protocol is straightforward. 1/4 teaspoon of unrefined sea salt or Himalayan pink salt in the first glass of water each morning. That is the full intervention. The mineral content restores the osmotic environment the cells require to absorb what the body is already drinking. Comment salt below if this is the first time you've heard this. The distance between what the published research shows and what seniors are routinely told is wider than most people realize. And stay with the video because the second ingredient has more peer-reviewed studies behind it than almost anything else covered today, and it directly addresses one of the most frustrating problems seniors face with blood sugar. Ingredient. Number 2. Apple cider vinegar. The second ingredient is one of the most studied natural interventions in metabolic health and one of the least discussed with seniors. Apple cider vinegar. 1 to 2 teaspoons diluted in a full glass of water, taken before the 2 largest meals of the day. The active compound is acetic acid, and its effect on blood sugar regulation in older adults has been documented in multiple controlled trials. A study published in Diabetes Care, one of the most respected journals in metabolic medicine, found that consuming apple cider vinegar before a high-carbohydrate meal reduced post-meal blood glucose spikes by up to 34% in participants with insulin resistance. A separate study in the Journal of Functional Foods found that participants who consumed apple cider vinegar before bed reduced their fasting blood glucose levels by 4 to 6% over 12 weeks compared to placebo. The mechanism is well established. Acetic acid inhibits specific digestive enzymes, disaccharidases, in the small intestinal lining that break down complex carbohydrates. This slows the release of glucose into the bloodstream after a meal, blunting the spike and reducing the insulin demand that follows. For adults over 60, whose insulin sensitivity has declined, a near universal consequence of the aging metabolic system, this buffering effect is clinically significant. A review in the Journal of Evidence-Based Integrative Medicine also found that regular apple cider vinegar consumption was associated with improved gut microbiome diversity, modest reductions in LDL cholesterol, and decreased markers of systemic inflammation. All three outcomes are directly relevant to the most common health challenges in the senior population. 2 evidence-based safety notes. First, apple cider vinegar must always be diluted. Its acidity, approximately pH 2.5 to 3, is sufficient to erode dental enamel and irritate the esophagus if taken undiluted. A minimum of 8 ounces of water is required, and consuming it through a straw further reduces enamel exposure. Second, anyone taking insulin or sulfonylurea-class diabetes medications should speak with their physician before starting. The blood glucose lowering effect is real and measurable, which means it can interact with medications that produce the same result, potentially causing hypoglycemia. For seniors managing blood sugar through diet alone or on metformin, the evidence is compelling and the safety profile is well established across the published literature. Ingredient number 3, fresh lemon juice. The third ingredient surprises almost everyone, not because it is unusual, but because its effects are so much broader than most people understand. Fresh lemon juice. Half a lemon squeezed into 12 to 16 ounces of warm or room temperature water, consumed first thing in the morning before food or coffee. The research behind this spans 3 distinct biological pathways. The first is kidney protection. Calcium oxalate kidney stones are the most common type, affecting an estimated 11% of men and 6% of women over 60 at some point in their lives. The aging kidney operates with significantly reduced reserve capacity, a natural consequence of nephron loss over time, making stone prevention increasingly important with age. Fresh lemon juice is exceptionally rich in citrate, a compound that physically binds to calcium in the urine and prevents it from crystallizing. A study published in the Journal of Urology found that lemon juice therapy was as effective as pharmaceutical potassium citrate, a commonly prescribed medication, at raising urinary citrate levels and reducing kidney stone recurrence. That comparison is worth pausing on. A food performing equivalently to a prescription drug for a condition affecting millions of seniors. The second pathway is inflammation and cognitive protection. Lemon juice provides a meaningful dose of vitamin C, a potent antioxidant that reduces circulating C-reactive protein, a primary marker of systemic inflammation. A large-scale analysis published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, following nearly 20,000 adults over 6 years, found that individuals in the highest quartile of vitamin C intake were 50% less likely to show measurable cognitive decline compared to those in the lowest quartile. Not from a supplement, from dietary intake. The third pathway is uric acid management. A randomized controlled trial published in Rheumatology International found that daily lemon water consumption over 6 weeks produced a statistically significant reduction in serum uric acid levels, the biochemical driver of gout, in participants with hyperuricemia. For the millions of seniors who manage gout, this is a direct, evidence-supported intervention available at the cost of a single lemon per day. A consistent note across the gastroenterological research: warm or room temperature water consistently outperforms cold water for morning absorption. Cold water triggers contraction of intestinal smooth muscle, reducing absorption efficiency. Warm water has been shown in multiple studies to improve bowel motility, directly relevant to the constipation that affects a substantial proportion of adults over 65. Type Lehman in the comments if you're starting this tomorrow morning. And stay with the video because ingredient 4 targets something even most doctors overlook: the single mineral deficiency that research now links to poor sleep, elevated blood pressure, blood sugar instability, and accelerated cognitive decline in the aging brain. Ingredient number 4: magnesium drops or powder. This may be the most consequential ingredient on this list and the most underdiagnosed deficiency in senior health today. Magnesium. The scale of the problem is significant. A comprehensive analysis published in Nutrients estimated that up to 79% of adults over 65 consume less than the recommended daily intake of magnesium. A separate study, using intracellular measurement techniques rather than standard serum testing, placed the deficiency rate even higher, above 80%, in community-dwelling older adults. The reason standard blood tests miss this is important to understand. Only 1% of the body's magnesium is found in the blood. The remaining 99% is stored inside cells and bone. A serum magnesium test, the standard clinical measurement, can read as completely normal, while intracellular levels are critically depleted. This is why magnesium deficiency in seniors is so frequently undiagnosed and so frequently mistaken for the symptoms of aging itself. 3 converging mechanisms drive the depletion. First, magnesium absorption through the gut decreases by approximately 30% between ages 40 and 70 due to reduced gastric acid production and changes in intestinal transport proteins. Second, the aging kidney becomes less efficient at conserving magnesium, excreting more of it even when dietary intake is adequate. Third, several of the most commonly prescribed medications in the senior population, including proton pump inhibitors, loop diuretics, and thiazide diuretics, directly accelerate magnesium excretion. A review in the American Journal of Kidney Diseases identified medication-induced hypomagnesemia as one of the most prevalent and underappreciated conditions in adults over 65. The consequences of deficiency are broad and frequently mislabeled. Magnesium governs more than 300 enzymatic reactions in the human body. Among the most clinically significant for older adults, it regulates the relaxation phase of cardiac muscle contraction, and deficiency is directly associated with arrhythmia and elevated blood pressure. It activates GABA receptors in the brain, the same inhibitory receptors targeted by prescription sleep medications, making it one of the most overlooked drivers of insomnia in seniors. A double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in the Journal of Research in Medical Sciences found that magnesium supplementation in adults over 65 significantly improved sleep onset time, sleep efficiency, sleep duration, and early morning awakening compared to placebo across all 4 primary measures of insomnia. A meta-analysis published in Hypertension, analyzing data from more than 30 randomized trials, found that magnesium supplementation produced statistically significant reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure in adults with hypertension, with effect sizes comparable to low-dose antihypertensive medication in some patient subgroups. The preferred supplemental forms are magnesium glycinate and magnesium citrate. Both demonstrate significantly higher bioavailability than magnesium oxide, the form found in most inexpensive supplements. Both are available as liquid drops or dissolvable powder. The recommended starting dose is 100 to 200 milligrams per day, increased gradually. Loose stools are the reliable, consistent indicator that the dose has exceeded current absorption capacity, a simple signal to reduce slightly. Optimal timing: 1 glass of water with magnesium, approximately 1 hour before bed. The GABA activation mechanism makes this one of the most evidence-backed, non-pharmaceutical sleep interventions currently available to the senior population. Ingredient number 5: liquid chlorophyll, or trace mineral drops. The 5th ingredient is the one most people have never considered, and it may be the most important foundational step of all. Here is the problem that the first 4 ingredients, on their own, cannot fully solve. Even with electrolytes restored, blood sugar buffered, inflammation reduced, and magnesium supplemented the body's ability to absorb and utilize water at the cellular level also depends on something more fundamental, a complete mineral environment at the trace level. Most people are familiar with the major minerals sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, but the human body requires dozens of additional minerals in very small trace amounts to maintain basic physiological function. Zinc, selenium, chromium, molybdenum, manganese, vanadium, boron. Each plays a role in enzymatic activity, hormone regulation, immune signaling, and cellular transport. Research published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found that deficiencies in multiple trace minerals, particularly zinc and selenium, were present in the majority of institutionalized elderly adults studied and in a significant proportion of community-dwelling seniors as well. These deficiencies are rarely captured on standard blood work panels, which typically screen for only a small fraction of the minerals the body depends on. Ionic trace mineral drops, concentrated solutions derived from ancient inland sea mineral deposits, provide a full spectrum of over 72 trace minerals in their ionic form, the form most readily absorbed by cells without requiring additional digestive conversion. A few drops added to a glass of water provides a daily mineral foundation that standard diet and supplementation almost never achieves. A bottle typically costs around $12 and lasts 2 to 3 months. The second component, liquid chlorophyll, is where the science becomes particularly compelling. Chlorophyll is the pigment that drives photosynthesis in plants. At the molecular level, its structure is nearly identical to human hemoglobin, the protein that carries oxygen through the bloodstream. The sole structural difference is the central atom. Hemoglobin centers on iron, while chlorophyll centers on magnesium. This structural similarity has attracted scientific attention for decades. Clinical research, including a study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, found that chlorophyllin, the water-soluble form used in liquid supplements, demonstrated meaningful antioxidant activity, reduced markers of oxidative DNA damage, and exhibited anti-inflammatory properties across multiple models. A separate pilot study found that oral chlorophyllin supplementation increased hemoglobin levels in participants with mild anemia over a 12-week period. For seniors experiencing chronic fatigue, reduced circulation, slow wound healing, or persistent systemic inflammation, the proposed biological mechanisms of liquid chlorophyll are directly relevant to what the research documents. The protocol is simple. 5 to 10 drops of liquid chlorophyll added to a glass of water once daily. The water turns green. This is expected, safe, and in most formulations, tasteless. Combined with ionic trace mineral drops, this final step achieves something the earlier 4 ingredients cannot do alone. It restores the full-spectrum mineral environment that the aging body has been depleted of, often for years, sometimes for decades. When that environment is rebuilt, everything else works more efficiently. Electrolytes absorb more completely. Magnesium activates more reliably. The cellular hydration that aquaporin decline has been undermining finally has the biological conditions it needs to function. The science is established, the cost is minimal, and the gap between what the research shows and what seniors are routinely told remains, for most people, completely uncrossed. Until today. Here is what the accumulated research is telling us and what mainstream medicine has been slow to translate into practical guidance for the people who need it most. The aging body is not broken. It has not surrendered. It is responding to well-documented biological changes, changes that have published, peer-reviewed solutions, tested in controlled trials, available at minimal cost, and largely sitting unused because no one has brought them together in a form that is simple and actionable. The fatigue, the joint stiffness, the unstable blood sugar, the poor sleep, the blood pressure that will not shift. In many cases, these are downstream consequences of a cellular environment that has been slowly depleted of what it needs to function. The research says so, and the research also offers a way forward. Plain water was never the problem. incomplete hydration was. Here is how to begin without overwhelm. Start this week with one ingredient only. The evidence-supported entry point is sea salt and fresh lemon in a morning glass of water. Both are available at any supermarket. Both cost almost nothing. Clinical studies tracking electrolyte-enhanced hydration consistently show measurable improvements in energy and morning joint stiffness within 5 to 7 days of consistent use. Add one more ingredient the following week, then another. Published absorption research consistently shows that gradual, consistent mineral restoration outperforms rapid supplementation. The body responds to steady replenishment more reliably than to sudden intervention. The information has always existed. The evidence has been there. The gap was never in the science. The gap was in who got told. Now you know. If this video gave you something useful, a mechanism that finally explained something, a finding you hadn't encountered before, drop it in the comments. Type water, along with the one ingredient you're starting with. This community is built around people over 60 who are done accepting less than the research says is possible, and every comment helps this information reach more of them. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe and hit the bell. The science is clear, and you deserve to have it. Take care of yourself. Until next time.